Hello and welcome to Trade of the Week with me, Zinati Guma, and join me for today's segment and sharing technical analysis on the Rand. InBev and Grindrod is co-head of trading at Unum Capital, Rob Pietrapaolo. Thank you so much for your time, Rob. I'm quite interested to see how you are trading the USD ZAR, because it's been quite interesting now. The Rand is over 18 Rand against the US dollar. And I actually think the last time you were here, you were going long on the dollar.
Yeah, look, the Rand dollar has been a difficult one to trade. We've had to cope with the US elections. There's a lot of hype around the dollar, and the dollar kind of dictates where things go from there. So a lot of bullishness on the dollar, and we can feel the pain in the Rand. So this is more a technical observation for everyone who's either stuck in the trade or wanting to get in the trade. So just some interesting levels to look out for.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because I also had another analyst that was, I think, just before the elections, and she was buying the dollar. And of course, that was clearly a good decision.
Yeah, I think that was a no-brainer because, look, the markets were kind of pricing in a Donald Trump win, much better for the US economy, US jobs. So, look, on the inflation front, that's a whole different kettle of fish. But I think euphoria, dollar strength, and then obviously whatever happens after that happens after that. So yeah, if we could jump into the chart, this was taken at close of our trade yesterday on the USD dollar. So we can see a very big sort of bullish engulfing candle. But what was interesting yesterday, and I know we went over, it closed at around 5:30 yesterday. We're sitting at 17.90 to the dollar.
Yeah.
So very, very interesting level for me though was that sort of resistance at 18. So we've obviously crossed through that barrier today or this morning. I think we're sitting at about 18.10 if I'm not mistaken. And that's quite significant. So if the pair does manage to hold on to this dollar gain at around 18.10, 18.09, then I think it opens up much higher levels for, and unfortunately, for the Rand. So we can see yesterday's price action was a proper burst through that 50-day moving average. But I think that 50-day moving average means nothing when you've got sort of elections at play, like what happened in the US. So the way I'm looking at it, this momentum certainly favors the dollar at the moment, and we can see that in commodity prices as well. So the stronger the dollar gets, the lower commodity prices get. So I think the next challenge is to see if the Rand can hold on for dear life, but at the moment the momentum looks like we're going to go and test that 200-day moving average again in 18.30, and the scary part for the Rand is that if it does break through that 18.30 level, then it opens up much higher levels, so 18.66, which I hope we don't see going into sort of the end of the year. If the Rand does manage to pull back below that resistance level, I see it moving more sideways than anything else.
Okay.
The only thing we've had to cope with is the volatility at the moment, and for short-term traders, volatility is where the profit comes in, but more for the sort of longer-term guys, I'd be looking to see if the Rand can hang on, but for the time being, I think 18.30 definitely on the cards in the next couple of days.
It's quite interesting, Rob, because the narrative was when interest rates start going down, that investors would be going more to the emerging markets, going into areas like the Rand. Is the narrative right now that the presidency is trumping, I guess, that kind of movement, even though we are still in an environment where interest rates are going down, which should favor, the Rand?
Look, I think what has happened since the Trump election is that he runs America more like a business rather than a country, and I think the bullishness on interest rate cuts have faded away. So what's happened now is that they've looked at how Trump plans to do things, which we'll find out in his first 100 days. He's already started getting vocal, but now they're pricing in slower or less frequent interest rate cuts, which was not the narrative under Biden and Harris. So
yes, because with a stronger economy as well, maybe the Fed won't be rushing to actually cut more aggressively, because they're not really breaking Anything?
Oh, look, and we can't control the fundamentals.
Yeah.
So all we have to go by is the price action, and the price action is telling me that there's a little bit more dollar strength to come through. And I think that's probably how I'd be playing this one for the rest of the week.
All right. Well, how are you playing the beer sector, AB InBev? What are you looking at there?
Well, on Anheuser-Busch or AB InBev, after their results on the 30th of October, we could see that share price plummet.
Yeah.
I recall we did call the buy sort of July, August.
Yes.
And then those results really disappointed. What's interesting now is the price action again yesterday. We can see that there was a massive bullish reversal candle. And that's at yesterday's close. So just to show that if we go back to almost exactly a year ago, that sort of formed a support base. That's where the price started recovering, and that sell-off has taken it all the way back to that same sort of support zone. But what caught my eye was the big reversal yesterday. So you can see that big green candle at yesterday's closing price. So what I'd like to see is that AB InBev closes above that support level today. Which sort of confirms that bullish engulfing candle, and that would be for me a signal to buy. And then I think we get to see a recovery. So if you can buy the stock very close to R1,000, that was more or less the previous support. It's not an exact science. The stock is extremely oversold, but if we get a close above R1,000 today, I think this could be a good opportunity for short-term traders to go and scoop 80 or 90 Rand sort of in the next week or two. I know it's trade of the week, so I think in the next week or so, I wouldn't be surprised if we did get a systematic bounce back up to sort of that resistance level. And then what happens after that, I suppose we'd have to reassess and see where the stock goes from there. But yeah, the results were disappointing, but this gives us the buying opportunity.
Well, it's actually quite interesting for me because a lot of the time, even when the results are disappointing, when a company announces a share buyback, investors will usually flock in, but actually that didn't happen this time. What exactly are investors worried about here? No,
I just think it's what value are you getting at the price. There's a big difference between an earnings miss and an earnings beat, because, if they're not as bad as expected, then obviously the price won't drop as much. If they worse than what was expected, then obviously you're going to get price action like we did. So what we've been doing is literally sitting on the sideline waiting to see where the stock finds its feet. Investors, you can see the selling has kind of exhausted itself now. So this is again a short-term trading opportunity, trade of the week, and again I wouldn't be surprised if we got a little bit of a recovery in Anheuser-Busch's share price, and then we reassess back at those levels. If it breaks below that support level again, well then it's hands off, because then it's a very long way down for the stock. But that hasn't happened yet. But if it does, be a signal not to get in or to get out if you're already in.
All right. Well, let's get into a Grindrod. What does the chart look like there? Quite an interesting one.
Very similar, actually, to AB InBev. The only thing that concerns me about this chart is the fact that it smashed through that 200-day moving average. So that's a very bearish sign. But what's not bearish, and I think it's close enough to that 200-day moving average. Again, a horizontal support that goes back to June this year. There's been issues with Grindrod, especially the unrest in Mozambique. The Mozambique port, that's put a spanner in the works for them.
That was quite interesting because they paused their operations and then I think a day later
it got lifted.
Exactly.
Yeah, so the ban gets lifted. And again, if you just look at those last two candles over the last 2 days, big reversal right on that support line from oversold sort of areas. And the stock managed to close higher yesterday again. So now we've got a big reversal and a green day for the stock. So I think traders are kind of accepting the fact that this Mozambique thing was a bit of noise. It will come right, and this is a great opportunity again to buy. Like I said, the only thing that bothered me was the fact that it broke below that 200-day moving average, which is a bearish signal. But for me, it's still close enough to make its way back, because Grindrod notoriously trades above that 200-day moving average. So I don't think the time it's going to spend over here is going to be very long. And then once it breaks back above that, then I think it opens up 14.85, 15 Rand a share. So the trade of the week for me is to try and pick up the share as close to 13 as possible, even go 13.20. I'd be willing to have a go depending on where it closes today, and then holding on for that 14.85, which would actually be a really, really good trade. Traders have been afraid of the stock. You can see it's been one way down for a month or so, but I think this level offers a really good opportunity to buy for about a 15% move back into where it should be.
Grindrod has actually been quite an interesting one, because it's been a kind of a play, I guess, against Transnet, considering the woes that Transnet has faced. I have actually noticed that there are companies that have come out with results where they're saying that things are actually getting better at Transnet. But do you think that even though things are getting better at Transnet, it's maybe still going to be a while where people can still play Grindrod on that, the fact that it is kind of a risk mitigator against the challenges that...
Look, who knows what they're going to do at Transnet. If we hear things are improving, well, that's great.
Yeah.
I think when you're in the market and you're looking at stocks, even from not even a fundamental point of view, even from a technical point of view, you've got to assume that the market prices in everything.
Yes.
So it will be a matter of time before the Transnet issues get sorted out. But remember, Grindrod was making money without them. And from a purely technical point of view, for us, the challenge is where do we find the opportunities to get in? And we're not trading here on a bet that Transnet's going to get better this year or in the next 6 months or whatever the case might be. We're just looking for entry and exit points to profit from shorter term moves. So whatever happens at Transnet, well, that'll filter through eventually anyway.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Rob. Really, really appreciate that. That was Rob Pietrapaolo from Unum Capital. And that's all we have time for today. Join us again next week for another edition of Trade of the Week.